KingofPodcasts.com proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Brought to you by KingofAmazon.com. KOP is all about Amazon, and so should you. Go to King of Podcasts' special link at KingofAmazon.com.
Thanks for finding the Wrestling is Real podcast once again. Appreciate all of you being here with me. Quick reminder before we get started on the show and recapping NXT TakeOver 31. Amazon Prime Day is coming up October 13th. The day for the best. It's better than Black Friday. It's one of the days of the best deals where all the Amazon products, the Echoes, the tablets, the Fire Sticks, all that stuff go on sale. Plus, so many other things are on daily buys. You get some of the best deals possible. Talk about a day for helping out this program. You can do that on Amazon Prime Day. Mark it on your calendar, October 13th. Go to KingofAmazon.com and go check out the deals for Amazon Prime Day. Remember, October 13th, put it on your calendar. You're going to KingofAmazon.com and you're going to go buy some cool stuff from Amazon as part of Amazon Prime Day through KingofAmazon.com, October 13th. Please do it, and please help the show. NXT TakeOver 31 tonight from the Capitol Wrestling Center, whatever they're supposed to be. So, a little mini Thunderdome. That was the idea for tonight's show. 5 matches on the card. 4 titles on the line. No title changes. Okay. Were the matches good? Sure. Damian Priest over Johnny Gargano for the NXT North American title. Kushida over the Velveteen Dream by submission. Santos Escobar, which was a little bit struggling tonight. Wasn't a smooth match with those two. Where he defeats Isaiah Swerve Scott for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. Io Shirai defeats Candice LeRae with a little bit of tomfoolery with Johnny Gargano as the referee. And then you saw Ember Moon and Toni Storm now vying to go ahead and come into NXT and challenge Io Shirai for the title. Okay. And Finn Bálor over Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship. Now look, let me go ahead and put my perspective on all this. Listen, this NXT TakeOver, for all intents and purposes, it's an all-star indie show. When you look at it, it really feels like that to me, where NXT has become that. It is truly the NXT all-star indie show. We have big, very good indie stars that would probably main event any card around the country, around the world. Independent cards. But for WWE, the purpose to serve that is different. And regardless of what Triple H does, it is just an indie. And that's really what it is. But NXT is not serving the purpose, really, of being a developmental system. So the question is NXT really going to be that or not? Who out of this group was really standing out that would be true value to the main roster right now? Ask yourself for those champions right now, the title holders. Damian Priest. Well, I don't feel any way different from him being Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor. I've said that for a long time. Johnny Gargano, I feel like just still has the same kind of praise and, that he had in the indies as well. I think he has been elevated because of an amazing feud with Tommaso Ciampa over the years. Other than that, nothing tells me you're going to bring Johnny Gargano back up again to make him something, and then he's going to become out like a breakout Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles type star. Kushida feels out of place. Kushida being in WWE, it doesn't make any sense. The New Japan players that are brought, or the Japanese stars that are brought in, they're not utilized well, in my opinion. Now, Asuka, they found a way to kind of work with Kairi Sane being attached to that. Shinsuke Nakamura, I never liked the way they booked him on the main roster. I have not. I mean, to see some of the matches they put him in and just the way he is presented now. Paychecks for all? Sure. You know, are they getting that? They're getting much more exposure than ever. Like, for the benefit of the wrestlers, there's a benefit for them to get that ultimate exposure for when they leave and go somewhere else to get paid. Now, they might not make the big paychecks like they normally would, but they're making good paychecks nevertheless. Santos Escobar, you know, this basically it's a kind of mafioso type group. When you look at it, El Hijo de Fantasma, again, give me that stable over in AAA, right? El Legado de Fantasma, honestly, give me that group. And honestly, I think Santos Escobar without the mask, without the look, doesn't help him all. It doesn't help at all. But for him, I mean, it's just, you see these stars from other countries that are, you know, put Kushida in New Japan, and that guy is, you know, going after the junior heavyweight championship, right? And being put in some very good feuds. There's no doubt about that. If Shinsuke was back over there, the same thing. Io Shirai, same thing as well. But, of course, New Japan doesn't feature women. But if you put her back in the Japanese wrestling circuit, you know she would be on top. She was. They were all accomplished stars in their countries. So really, it's just a benefit where Triple H is kind of just bringing these people in for this all-star dojo of talent that gets to be on TV in America. It's American exposure. That is all. Which is kind of the pet project for WWE, for Triple H to do. But that's what I feel like. The pet project does not serve the purpose of what the company needs. Because you got to ask yourself the question, really, what does it mean to have these established stars from other countries and other brands? I mean, again, Kyle O'Reilly from a very established Ring of Honor system for many years. You know, if he were still there, he would probably still be towards the top of the card, but probably wouldn't have been working that much. So, I mean, for Kyle O'Reilly, it works out well. Undisputed Era, it's a Ring of Honor stable that's stuck together. Adam Cole, same thing. But I look at all this, and there is nothing, no contributions at all by any of these stars that can lead to the growth in WWE. And you can't tell me it's going to be because, oh, well, Vince goes away, it'll be different. No. For you to make these stars in NXT something more than they were, you would have to absolutely change the dynamic of WWE altogether. You would have to change the entire narrative, the entire style of what this is. And WWE is not going to do that, no matter who's in charge. That's not sports entertainment. This is wrestling we're watching now. There's nothing sports entertainment about what they're doing. You might have a couple of good entrances, but really, what else is there? This is my problem with NXT. And so the fans that are watching regularly on TV, the same fans will be watching indie shows. Or watching the large independents with TV shows. Whether it be New Japan, whether it be World of Sport, AAA, CMLL in Mexico, Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan, Impact here in the States and Canada, Ring of Honor, NWA, MLW. Same idea. It's good they have a place to work, and they're getting probably some money for it. But more importantly, they're getting the exposure on national TV and some worldwide audience on top of that. But they are wrestling a WWE style with some leeway as to what they are normally able to do. Sure. But it doesn't contribute to what the main roster needs. So this week, we're going to have the draft in WWE's main roster, and really, just shuffling a few people around is not going to be a whole change. NXT is not even involved in the draft this year, by the way. So when you look at all this, there is, one star I see of everybody out there that is truly from within the developmental system, Velveteen Dream, who I don't see ever getting a shot on the main roster being something extra special. They're not going to put the rocket pack behind him after all that's happened to him. It's a surprise he's still there. So having good matches and having a good indie right now, you're basically taking the place of, during this pandemic, of what Ring of Honor cannot provide, what MLW has not been able to provide, what NWA has not been able to provide, what New Japan for a time was not able to provide. Meanwhile, Japan's got their shows back up. I believe Mexico's got their shows back up. So, their show's running again. But again, what's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of NXT being an all-star indie? What good does that do? Again, we saw people that were NXT champions that would be, and the NXT title, all right? Your NXT title tonight, talk about, the developmental of NXT. Finn Bálor is 39 years old. Kyle O'Reilly's 33. And Kyle O'Reilly has been wrestling, 2005. 15 years together, right? 15 years in the ring. When you look at Finn Bálor, 2000. There's oodles and oodles of years. But again, when it comes to WWE, they're only going to look at the fact that, he's only been around for what he's been doing. It only matters what happens in his WWE career. So anything he did before that, nobody's going to worry about, right? So in the eyes of WWE, $2014. That's it. 2014. So, okay, in his 6 years here, great. That's what he is. And so, let's just negate whatever else he did before. It's like, okay, that's just the prerequisite to get to the course, kid, basically. And that's all I see this as. A lot of accomplished stars everywhere else. I just feel like NXT's just not just a payday, really not a payday, but it's like, okay, you're on the big top. You're getting to work on this tour right now with the biggest company possible. So really, the value of them being in WWE's NXT system is that they will be able to make more money at other places, right? Think Rob Van Dam at Really Legal. Yeah, I'm on this show because then eventually I'll be able to go somewhere else and make more money outside of WWE. I can actually ask for a lot of money on the next indie show once I'm released from my contract. What good does that do? Now, of course, this does not represent the entire NXT roster, of course. But when you look at the NXT roster itself, like, who's really there that's going to stand out right now and be very important to the benefit of the main roster in general? So we look at the women's roster. Okay. Ember Moon, Toni Storm now join Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Rhea Ripley, Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox, Raquel Gonzalez, Shotzi Blackheart, Zia Lee, Vanessa Bourne, Scarlett, and more. So, okay. A lot of good talent there. And for the women's roster, it's like, it's a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little more unpredictable as to seeing who would actually come from the pack and really stand out. But there's a number of stars there that could do something. That could be given a gimmick that could really stand out and be something special. And also remember, because all these women are young, they're also in the prime of their careers. And for all intents and purposes, they all do wrestle pretty well. So what they do have when it comes to NXT is you are seeing a roster of stars that are able to wrestle, right? When you look at the NXT men's roster, you look at the names that they have. Cameron Grimes, right, still known as Trevor Lee from Impact. Where does he stand out? Danny Burch for a long time working, right? Then you have Dexter Lumis, Dijakovic now being used over in the main roster with Retribution. By the Retribution, is that getting anywhere yet? No. I don't even know how they're going to use that during the draft. I guess that's the one thing that can be kind of interesting. But then you look at the rest of this roster. Okay. Fandango, who's been around in the developmental for a long time. But again, it's just like he has a cushy job, and that's it. Isaiah Scott or Shane Strickland or Killshot or whatever you want to call him, that guy's been around for quite a bit as well. Indie-rific and good wrestler, good star. But what can he really contribute when it comes to coming to onto the main roster anytime soon? Like, why is Triple H and others just bringing people to NXT just so they can stay in NXT? What good is that? The NXT brand should be a stepping stone like it was in the beginning. It's no longer that way. And it's becoming that way more and more because there are no stars that are succeeding from the NXT brand. They've pillaged the roster, the NXT roster, and brought who they could bring up. Has anything happened so far? Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, Aleister Black, Ricochet. Again, these guys would be stars anywhere else. And here they're just like, they're just waiting to get back out to where they were before from WWE as Aleister Black. Tommy End is back in this organization, right? Back at Revolution Pro or wherever he works at. Finn Balor, former Finn Balor, Prince Devitt is back. Ricochet, Prince Puma's back, right? Think about it. Except for Matt Riddle, it's his real name, right? So, what else are you going to do? This is what this company is. Again, so now, look, Joaquin Wilde. Oh, well, TJP, he can go out wherever he wants to work again. And I look at some of the names they have that are of their own, and there's not many. Kona Reeves, do you ever even hear from him at all? Babatunde, they've been using him on what? The underground portion of Raw. But again, if you look at the male roster, there are no people that are legitimate, developmental, molded from the ground up through development on the in the Performance Center. By the way, no Performance Center types on this NXT roster here. The ones that get the bang on the plexiglass around the ring tonight. Any of them making their way up to NXT's main roster, to that NXT roster yet? No. There's a lot of women with lots of potential down the line. If they want a Lacey Evans to go, or a Dana Brooke to go, or Peyton Royce Billie Kay to go, they could definitely, or Lana to go. There's going to be always some expendable women on the WWE's main roster. But we see that NXT has a roster of women that are developmental that they can build up. Because they're still essentially very young. and still prime of their career or get into the prime of their career, right? Meanwhile, the men's side has nothing. Karrion Kross, whenever he gets back, that's the one guy I think of anybody right now on that roster that really looks like that's the guy that's going to make a big difference on that roster. Otherwise, what? Adam Cole, Undisputed Era? Do you think anybody's going to pay attention to that when they get to the main roster? Are they going to make any much of a difference than they already did from NXT? As a faction of NXT, they've already run their course. What else is there to do? These are the things I think about when it comes to NXT. Because as for the matches, sure, they're great matches. They had a good show tonight. But there's nothing more to it. And this needs to be rectified. I don't know what they're going to be doing, what they're going to do to kind of fix that. But I can't keep going on about this. I'm going to leave it alone. Because there's not much more to say about NXT. It's not helping to the growth of the main brand, which is why you're putting all that money on all of this in the first place. Just to make them look good only makes them look good for the future for themselves once they leave their contracts. So the benefit, there's no benefit towards WWE at all. There's not. Because we already know if they do make it to the main roster, which they could, not like they're not entitled to, but the point is they go to the main roster, they will get used badly almost every time. The success record, when it's people that they have brought on their own and built up of their own building throughout the years, those are the ones that they care about and they want to build. This is why Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns, they've been in the system for a long time. That's why they matter here. That's why they're our top stars. Drew McIntyre was part of this system for a long time. Same thing. But then his star rose when he left and came back. It's as if, well, he was going to come back eventually, and look what he did. Because then everybody still has a level where they get up near the top and they get brought back down. Look at Kevin Owens. Look at AJ Styles. They were brought back up to a certain point. Now they're just upper mid-carders. Never in a title picture. Never anything more than that. They're just kind of there for the paycheck. They got their families taken care of. That's what matters. Well, good for them. They don't have to work so hard to bust their asses anymore. Not like they can't still do it, but under the WWE banner, it doesn't happen so much anymore. Okay, 20 minutes, that's all I'm going to do. I have nothing much more to say about this show. Gonna leave it there. So when we come back, this coming Wednesday, going into Thursday, we'll have the draft to talk about, a few other things to go on with. Until then, come back for another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast, brought to you by KingofAmazon.com. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and on Facebook at Wrestling is Real. Subscribe to the Wrestling is Real podcast through all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also look for episodes on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. You can find all this information and more by going to the website, WrestlingIsReal.com.